Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020, the day before the draft. Today I'm going to talk about the latest with the coronavirus and what hockey could have in plans for store. The latest sports rewatches, which are old games and old events. NFL smokescreen season, it's the day before the draft, so I'm going to talk about the latest things that are potentially smokescreens that are coming out. A new episode of The Masked Singer tonight. We'll preview it. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is on tonight as well. A concert in New Jersey that is a fundraiser for COVID-19. And my latest NFL mock draft. We're going to hold off on the artists of 2017 countdown until next week due to the draft. All right, now I want to talk some hockey plan in the wake of the coronavirus and what they're thinking about doing. The reported plan to use non-NHL rinks for games this summer is dead, and the league plans to use 2 to 4 of its own arenas. So there are 31 teams in the league. You split them up. They should do 5 and put 6 teams in each league. Or do 5 and 6 or 6 and 5. If they use 4, then it's going to be 8, 8, 8, and 7. And if Seattle was playing this year, then it would have been 8, 8, 8, 8, and that would have been fine. I think the Arizona arena's in play. There's not many cases in Arizona. I do not think they will go to MSG or the Barclays Center or Nassau Coliseum or Prudential Center because it's hot in New Jersey and New York. I don't think they'll do Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. I think there's a chance they do Tampa because it's not very hot in Tampa. And I mean hot in terms of coronavirus hotspots. I could see a world where they do it in Dallas, in the Stars Mavericks Arena. I can see them doing it in Minnesota in the Wilds Arena. No way I see it in Detroit. No way I see it in Chicago. I do not see it anyway in California. California probably isn't going to allow that. I can see them doing it in Vegas, but I don't think they'll do it in Vegas because the NBA, I think, wants to go to Vegas. So I don't think they'll do Vegas, although I wouldn't rule out Vegas. They're not doing Seattle, even though they said they're going to do their own arenas. They're not going to do Columbus. I would not be surprised if they did Colorado, the Avalanche Arena. I won't be shocked if they do the Hurricanes Arena down in Raleigh, North Carolina. So there's a lot of options, I think, but I think the obvious cross-offs are anywhere in California, the New York teams, the Devils, the Flyers, the Penguins, the Blackhawks, the Red Wings, the Vegas Golden Knights Arena, only because I think the NBA is going to use that arena for its return. So I think that some of the smaller market teams are in play, with the exception of the Stars. I think there's a chance they do it in the Stars Arena. And then obviously the Canadian arenas. I wouldn't rule out Toronto. I would not rule out Montreal. I would not rule out Winnipeg. And I would not rule out Vancouver. So I think the Canadian arenas are also in play for this hockey plan as well. Now I want to discuss some sports rewatches that have been on this week and will be re-aired this week. Last night, they re-aired Yankees-Mariners, Game 5 from 1995. Mariners 1-5 to advance to the ALCS against the Indians. Yankees had a 1-run lead in the 11th inning, and then Buck Showalter doesn't put in Mariano Rivera, or keeps Rivera in the game. They go with their old closer, or the former closer, and he blows it, and the Mariners moved on. Buck Showalter got fired. They hired Joe Torre. The rest is history, we know. And that Mariners team wound up losing to the Indians in the ALCS. So the Mariners did not go to the World Series in 95. It was the Indians against the Braves, and the Braves wound up winning that World Series, and that was the last time they won the World Series back in 1995 with the loaded pitching staff they had down there. And Bobby Cox was obviously their manager back then. Tonight, ESPN is re-airing 2 big NBA games from 2008. The NBA Finals Game 4, where the Celtics came back from a big deficit to defeat the Lakers, leaving up that series at 2 apiece. And Game 6, where the Celtics wound up clinching at home, and Kevin Garnett had his famous line of anything is possible. So, now's the last time the Celtics won the championship, and obviously those two teams faced off 2 years later in the NBA Finals. Kendrick Perkins got hurt in Game 6, and they probably would have won 2 in a 3-year span if not for that injury, because Kendrick Perkins meant a lot to that Celtics team in that Big 3 era with Rondo. So that's a sports what if right there. They also reared last night the 2017 NFL Draft on ESPN2. Obviously, it's the draft where Kansas City and the Texans traded up for Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, respectively. The Bears traded up for Mitch Trubisky. We all know how that worked out. Bears took Myles Garrett. The Bills wound up being the trade partner for the Chiefs, and they traded back, and then they got Tre'Davious White, which wound up being an excellent pick. And tonight, ESPN is re-airing the 2014 NFL Draft. That was Jadeveon Clowney, Odell Beckham Jr., the Cowboys might get Johnny Manziel draft, and then they wound up taking Zach Martin. That was a really good decision, obviously. And Teddy Bridgewater to Minnesota was that year. A lot of big names were in this draft. Khalil Mack with the Raiders. Aaron Donald with the Rams. So there's so many big-time stars in the NFL that were drafted that year. So that's going to be the draft that's re-airing tonight on ESPN2. A classic on MLB Network tonight, the 2014 American League wildcard game, Oakland against Kansas City. John Lester against James Shields, one of the best wildcard games over the past, since the wildcard came out in 2012. It's almost been close to a decade since that came out. That came out in 2012. We're in 2020. And Oakland obviously had a lead in that game multiple times, including an extra inning, and then they blew it. Kansas City moved on. They made it all the way to the Game 7 of the World Series, but they ran in the Madison Bumgarner. So that was a great game, September 30th of 2014. And then 2017 ALDS Game 2, Yankees-Indians. That was a game that I personally think cost Joe Girardi his job as Yankees manager. As much as they won't admit it and say that they wanted a new voice and whatnot, I think that combined with his benching of Gary Sanchez in the summer of that season is what Joe Girardi got fired for. And both of those instances ironically happened in Cleveland. Game 2 is where he did not challenge what should have been a hit by pitch, or what wasn't a hit by pitch, my bad. And then Chad Green, my bad, gave up the game-tying grand slam to Francisco Lindor. And then the Yankees, I think, wound up taking the lead again in that game, and then the Indians tied it off of David Robertson, and then they won on a walk-off in the bottom of the 10:30 11th inning, and they went up 2-0. If the Yankees hold on and win that game, they win that series in 4, and then they probably still lose to Houston. Maybe Joe still gets fired, or maybe Joe still has a job, but that is certainly one of the recent what-ifs in baseball history, because now Joe's obviously managing with the Philadelphia Phillies. 2018 NBA playoffs, Pacers-Cavaliers Game 7, 2018. LeBron scores 45, and the Pacers and Victor Oladipo take LeBron James and the Cavs to 7. and LeBron prevails to take on the Raptors. And then Game 5, 2019, Thunder Trailblazers. That's Damian Lillard's game-winning shot. And that, looking back, Russell Westbrook and Paul George's final games as members of the Oklahoma City Thunder. 2015, Golden State at New Orleans, Game 3, Western Conference first round. Pelicans had a big lead in that game. Warriors came from behind to win that game. Game 7, Spurs at the Clippers. That was Chris Paul's game-winning shot against the then reigning champion Spurs. And then also 2014, Warriors-Clippers. Doesn't say what game that is. Probably Game 7, because the Warriors obviously took them to 7. The Clippers were dealing with all the Donald Sterling turmoil at the time. And then Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and the Clippers prevailed in Game 7 to move on to take on KD, Russell Westbrook, and the Thunder. Couple playoff games were airing on NHL Network. 2018 Game 3, Boston-Toronto. Boston and Toronto, I feel like, meet in the playoffs every year. October 7th, Maple Leafs at the Blackhawks. So that was regular season. October 12th, 2016, Maple Leafs at the Senators. I believe that was an outdoor game, if I'm not mistaken. And that game's being aired again. And then the World Juniors, Canada against United States from 2010. So there's a lot of good NHL players right now in that game from a decade ago. So that's a little nuts. So, yeah, a lot of fun old sports memories to keep sports fans entertained during these trying times. Now I want to talk about smokescreen season. There's a lot of them coming out within the last 24 hours. The latest one being that Miami wants to trade up to number 3 and take an offensive lineman. If you ask me if that's smokescreen or real, I think it's a smokescreen. I think they're just trying to scare the Giants a little bit. So, just like I think that I think another team leaked out that the Giants talked to Justin Herbert, and I think they did that to make the Giants think that they're pulling off a smokescreen and that the Chargers were moving up to ahead of Miami to take the quarterback that Miami wanted. So I just think that's a smokescreen, if I had to guess. Because like I said, it's smokescreen season. So that's that. Jerry Jeudy, there's been talk about his knee and that teams took him off the draft board. And then a doctor came out and said there are no concerns about the wide receiver's knee after a 2018 surgery. So I do think that Jerry Jeudy will still be picked in the top 12. The furthest I can see him dropping, I'd be surprised if the Raiders passed on him at 12. I'd be dumbfounded if he was still on the board past the Broncos at 16 or 15. I have a feeling that somebody unexpected could trade up for maybe even Denver to the Brown spot or to the Jets spot so you can get him ahead of the Raiders. And that's been a popular mock draft trade of late because that's a division rival. John Gruden loves Jerry Jeudy. Perfect type of player for Oakland to have. And division rival Denver Broncos and John Elway come trading up to that spot, or 2 spots or 1 spot ahead to take Jerry Jeudy. So that would be pretty fun to see somebody trade up for Jerry Jeudy. Another draft rumor is that the Cardinals and Panthers are open to trading down. I think the Panthers should consider it because that's a team that's rebuilding. The Cardinals, I think, could consider it as well. I think they're closer to winning than the Panthers are right now with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. I won't be surprised if either of those teams move down. You can talk me into the Cardinals moving down, grabbing a couple defensive players. They trade down and maybe they take C.J. Henderson. Maybe let's say they trade down to 14. The Bucs want to trade up and get one of those tackles. and the Cards trade down and get C.J. Henderson, and in case Atlanta doesn't trade up, they trade down and take Henderson before Atlanta has a chance to take him. And then the other draft note that I wanted to touch on is that the Dolphins, the tide has turned, that's an appropriate saying for this, with how Miami views quarterbacks in draft, with Herbert potentially the target at number 5. You have to see my latest mock draft to see if I agree with them this time around, and that could very well be a smokescreen. So that's it for my smokescreen season segment. I'm going to do it again tomorrow on the regular podcast, as well as my last mock draft and a couple other sports-related item things that I want to hit on. And then I'm going to do a couple draft preview podcasts separately as well. Now I want to talk about tonight's episode of The Masked Singer. Last week was obviously a rerun, technically, of old performances that are from the top 7 contestants left. And the 4 contestants that didn't go 2 weeks ago are going tonight, I believe, and that's Kitty, Banana, Rhino, and Frog. Those 4 are going tonight in part 1 of the episode. And then part 2 of the episode is going to be the 3 remaining plus Night Angel, Astronaut, and Turtle. The person that I think is going home in the first episode tonight, I think will be Rhino. And on the second episode, I think Banana will go home. So the top 5, my predictions will be Night Angel, Kitty, Astronaut, Frog, and Turtle. And that would be the best 5 remaining, in my opinion. I'd be surprised if any of those 5 contestants go home tonight, honestly, unless if one of those other 2 performers I think will go home tonight absolutely blows me away. So my guesses for right now, and that will obviously change potentially on tomorrow's show when I recap the episode. With the foursome that's in the first episode. So I think obviously Rhino's going home, and I think Rhino is Tim Tebow. There's a lot of religious clues in that package. There was a quarter, so quarterback. There's surfing. There's ties to Florida, and he played for the Gators in college. So I think that is Tim Tebow. Banana, I think, is likely to go home too, and I think he'll go home in the second of the 2 episodes. That is the toughest one for me to figure out. I think we're going to be surprised of who it is. And as of right now, I think it's Kid Rock. There's a lot of hints relating to his past. And the vocals sound very, very much like Kid Rock's. And when he performed Sweet Home Alabama, and obviously it'd be funny if it is Kid Rock, because he obviously has a song all summer long which sounds exactly like Sweet Home Alabama and pretty much copied that song. So it'd be only fitting if Kid Rock sang Sweet Home Alabama if it is Kid Rock. So that's a TBD. So I'm going to go with Kid Rock on that one. And then the other 5 contestants. So you have the Frog. I think it's Alfonso Ribeiro, but I won't be surprised if it's Bow Wow. And then you have the Kitty, who I think is the best contestant left between her, Night Angel, and Astronaut. I think that might be your top 3, to be honest. And I won't be shocked if Turtle's in the top 3 either. So that's a clear top 4 in my mind. Kitty, I think it's either Kristen Chenoweth or Idina Menzel, but I'm leaning towards Chenoweth. And there was a big hint in there that showed the tree from last season, and that was obviously Anna Gasteyer, who was in Wicked. Chenoweth and Menzel, obviously, both were in Wicked, so I think it's one of those 2, and if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's Chenoweth, but I don't feel that good about it. And then you got Astronaut. I think it's Jesse McCartney, the vocals, some of the hints. The Turtle, I think it's AJ McLean, but I won't be surprised if it's Joey McIntyre. The Night Angel, I think, is Kelly Rowland, but I do not feel that strongly about it either. The one I feel the best about is obviously Tim Tebow, but who knows? If I'm wrong about the Rhino, then I won't be shocked, because there's a lot of hints that were against Tim Tebow and were for towards other athletes or even singers out there as well. Now I want to talk about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for tonight. It's the third week of it. Last week was a pretty good show. Will Forte finished off his show, and he went home with $32,000 after he got the $64,000 question wrong. In the chair right now is Nikki Glazer. Her help is Dr. Drew Pinsky, and she, I believe, was left off around the $16,000 mark. We'll see how far she goes tonight. And obviously, Millionaire history made last week, as she was allowed to change her answer, and that actually worked out for her, so that's good. Jane Fonda's coming on tonight, as well as Anthony Anderson, so that makes me wonder if Glazer or Fonda will have a quick quick ounce tonight. So 3 contestants on tonight, so should be a very fun show. Tonight there is a concert on TV tonight, another For Home concert on Channel 7, ABC, and it is also on News 12 here in the tri-state area. It's called Jersey for Jersey, and the biggest names in the Garden State in music and entertainment join together for a special performance. Like I said, it's a 1-hour fundraiser special. Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen, Tony Bennett, Saquon Barkley's a part of it apparently as well. So you'll see a little bit of football flavor. Maybe you'll see Daniel Jones. Maybe you'll see Sam Darnold. Maybe you'll see a New Jersey Devils member. Maybe you'll see somebody from the Red Bulls. And I said those teams because they obviously play technically in Jersey, because of MetLife Stadium, and then the Red Bull Stadium's in Newark, and the Devils obviously play at the Prudential Center. So I won't be shocked if we see more than just Saquon Barkley in there. I think Kelly Ripa's involved as well. So should be a good show, and I'm really looking forward to it. And last, I'm going to do my latest mock draft. I made some changes for this one. It's probably going to look dramatically different tomorrow, as tomorrow obviously will be my final one. So, without further ado, here we go. My 10th NFL mock draft. Number 1, Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU. After what was a breakout season which led to a Heisman Trophy, Burrow emerged as a favorite to go first overall in this upcoming draft. The Bengals want to move on from Andy Dalton and start fresh here at Burrow, whose second-year coach Zach Taylor could help develop into the franchise quarterback the team is looking for. 2, Washington Redskins, Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State. Young is the best player in this draft, and he falls one spot due to the Bengals' quarterback need. The Redskins need a lot of young talent on both ends of the ball, and Young would have an immediate impact in the league, chasing the likes of Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, and Daniel Jones twice a season. 3, Detroit Lions, Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State. This is an interesting spot because this is a spot where someone could come and trade up for a quarterback or something else, and the Lions can get a nice haul back. The Lions are a team that's in dire need of secondary help after the trading of Darius Slay, and Okudah is the best defensive back in the draft. although you can argue they should take Derek Brown of Auburn due to their need on the interior of their defensive line. 4. New York Giants. Jedrick Wills Jr., offensive tackle, Alabama. The Giants have some options here as they can take a tackle, Isaiah Simmons, or they can trade down and stack more assets, and the latter is what the Giants would like to do. Wills is somebody that can come in and start right away and help protect Daniel Jones, and he could move to left tackle in the future. 5. Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama. There is a lot of talk that the Dolphins could pass on Tua for Justin Herbert, like I have mocked the fast few times, and there's even chatter that the Dolphins may take a non-quarterback here. Let's say the rumors are a smokescreen and the Dolphins take a risk on the guy they've loved from the beginning. If Tua does not pan out to what we think he can be, Chris Grier may lose his job. 6. Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon. The Chargers are left with Herbert or a non-quarterback as they settle on Herbert after the Dolphins take Tua. The Chargers could be the ideal situation for Herbert because their roster is solid already and could compete in the AFC with good quarterback play. 7. Carolina Panthers. Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, Clemson. The Panthers have a tough call here between Simmons and Derek Brown. Here I have them taking Simmons, who can play literally anywhere on the defensive side of the ball, and he can play multiple positions well. 8. Arizona Cardinals. Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. The Cardinals also have a tough call here as they can go with Wirfs or Derek Brown. They choose to help protect Kyler Murray by selecting Wirfs, who is the cleanest tackle in the draft class. 9. Jacksonville Jaguars. Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn. The Jaguars are perhaps the biggest wild card in the draft as they can go in a number of directions with their first-round picks. Here I have them snagging Brown as they need reinforcements on their defensive line after trading away Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue, soon to be out as well. 10. Cleveland Browns. Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville. The Browns' biggest need is on the offensive line, and they snagged the talented tackle with Becton. Becton is someone that has tremendous upside but does have technique flaws. A failed drug test can make him slide past this point, but I do think he'll be snagged within the first 14 picks. 11. New York Jets. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma. The Jets could go wide receiver here to give Sam Darnold a much-needed top receiver or take a lineman if one of them falls that they love to help protect Sam Darnold. Lamb is somebody that has high upside and that has great hands, body control, and is a solid route runner. 12. Las Vegas Raiders. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. John Gruden is doing backflips as Jeudy falls into his lap. He is a fantastic route runner. Many folks have compared him to Calvin Johnson due to his tremendous upside. He'd certainly turn into Derek Carr's top option. 13. San Francisco 49ers from Indianapolis Colts. Javon Kinlaw, defensive lineman, South Carolina. This is a tough call for John Lynch on his first of 2 first-rounders, and he decides to help replace DeForest Buckner with the pick he got back in the Buckner trade instead of taking Henry Ruggs III. Kinlaw is someone who is super versatile and would be a great fit on the Niners' front 7. 14. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia. Thomas was someone I had going as high as 4th, but his stock has dropped a bit, possibly due to a flaw he has of incorrect footwork. This would be a win for Tom Brady regardless, as the Bucs get him some much-needed protection. 15. Denver Broncos. Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver, Alabama. John Elway is doing bat flips as one of the best 3 wideouts in this class falls to him. Ruggs is someone that can conceivably be the first receiver off the board due to his outstanding speed and route running. He'd be a great target for Drew Lock along with Courtland Sutton. 16. Atlanta Falcons. C.J. Henderson, cornerback, Florida. The consensus at this point is that the Falcons are poised to trade up and select Henderson, who can end up going in the top 10. Henderson has tremendous upside, and there's people that feel that he is the best corner in the draft and not Jeff Okudah. Henderson would be a great replacement for Desmond Trufant. 17. Dallas Cowboys. K'Lavon Chaisson, defensive end, LSU. Edge rush and cornerback are 2 of the Cowboys' biggest needs after Byron Jones and Robert Quinn bolted as free agents. They choose to go with Chaisson to pair along with DeMarcus Lawrence, who is raw but was a sack machine in college. 18, Miami Dolphins from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Josh Jones, offensive tackle, Houston. As bad as the Dolphins need offensive line reinforcements, taking Jones here would be a reach. Jones was a 4-year starter in college, and he has great movement as well as the length and feet to succeed in the league. 19, Las Vegas Raiders. A.J. Terrell, cornerback, Clemson. The Raiders take the fast-rising corner here in Terrell with their second first-rounder. Terrell is versatile for his size, but he does have flaws that could be fixed in the league. 20, Jacksonville Jaguars from the Los Angeles Rams. Trayvon Diggs, cornerback, Alabama. The Jaguars have a major need in the secondary after trading away Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye. They select Riggs here to address that need, and he can come in and start right away in this scenario. 21, Philadelphia Eagles. Xavier McKinney, safety, Alabama. The Eagles badly need a wide receiver, but they can wait till day 2 to address that. Here I have them filling a need at safety here with McKinney, who replaces the departed Malcolm Jenkins. McKinney is someone that can play all levels on the back end of a defense and has great range. 22, Minnesota Vikings from the Buffalo Bills. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. The Vikings snagged Jefferson here with the first rounder they received in the Stephon Diggs trade to replace Diggs. Jefferson had a breakout season this past year, catching so many passes from Joe Burrow and making big plays when it mattered the most. 23, New England Patriots. A.J. Epineza, defensive end, Iowa. The Patriots are a bit of a wild card in this draft and could go in many different directions with this selection, whether it's a quarterback, a defensive player, or a trade down. Epineza is shown to be versatile and has great length and athleticism, similar to ex-Patriot and current Lion Trey Flowers. 24, New Orleans Saints. Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU. Queen is one of the rapid risers of late in many people's mock drafts. The Saints' biggest need is at the linebacker position, and Queen will certainly help the cause with his ability to play 3 downs as well as his speed, although he is undersized. 25, Minnesota Vikings. Jalen Johnson, cornerback, Utah. Johnson is one of the fast-rising corners as we head closer to the draft. With Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, and Mackenzie Alexander all gone, the Vikings fill a major need with someone that, with his tools, would fit nicely in Mike Zimmer's scheme. 26, Miami Dolphins from the Houston Texans. DeAndre Swift, running back, Georgia. The Dolphins have some options with this selection, and here I have them taking the talented back. Swift is someone that will come in and be an upgrade over what they currently have, and assuming they do address their offensive line with other selections, Swift could really help this offense with his speed and catching ability out of the backfield. 27, Seattle Seahawks. Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end, Penn State. Gross-Matos' stock has dropped after being projected to be in the top 15. The Seahawks have a pass rush need, assuming they don't bring back Jadeveon Clowney, and Gross-Matos would help the cause with his good length and speed. 28, Baltimore Ravens. Kenneth Murray, linebacker, Oklahoma. One of the glaring needs on the Ravens roster is at the linebacker position, as they have a choice of a few to choose from. Murray is someone that has a ton of speed and is very rangy. 29, Tennessee Titans. Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, USC. The Titans have some options here at this selection, and here I have them snagging the talented lineman to replace the departed Jack Conklin. Jackson could have benefited from returning to school to help improve his technique, but he does have the upside to be a solid contributor. 30, Green Bay Packers. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, Arizona State. The Packers have some options here at this selection, and they take the fast-rising receiver in Ayuk. Ayuk is somebody that is very clean and a good deep ball threat. He with Devontae Adams for Aaron Rodgers to throw to would be fun to watch. 31, San Francisco 49ers. Kristen Fulton, cornerback, LSU. Fulton falling this far would be a major win for John Lynch and company. Richard Sherman is getting older, and other guys in their secondary will be free agents after the 2020 season, so this would be a logical pick. 32, Kansas City Chiefs. Cesar Ruiz, center, Michigan. The Chiefs have options with this pick as they can go anywhere on offense, including the line or wide receiver, or on defense. And they go with the lineman, with Ruiz, who is the best interior offensive lineman in this draft, and he would be a nice fit on the reigning champion Kansas City Chiefs, helping protect Patrick Mahomes. That's it for my mock draft. I'll be back tomorrow with my final one. I'm going to be doing my draft board tomorrow on a separate podcast, as well as player comparisons and predictions for the draft as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.